Welcome, everybody. Welcome to today's Real Estate Summit Series, event number 1. It's Tech and Real Estate, the City of the Future. Today's event is presented by the Chamber's Real Estate Committee, led by myself and my Vice Chair, Carol Ellis Cutler. I would love to extend a really big thank you to Carol and Lydia Stefanova, Stefania Stefanelli, and the rest of the task force for really the ones that are making this possible and the rest of the series of events possible. Today really begins the first event of the Real Estate Summit Series and our program, which is focusing on real estate technology and building the future of Miami. You know, we're seeing things in the prop tech world that we've never seen before that are just here to enhance our lives and our lifestyle and really create efficiencies when it comes to the consumer and how we interact with real estate, but more importantly, how things are kind of moving around as well. So during today's program, we're going to hear a keynote address from Mayor Francis Suarez, who's been a real great ambassador to bringing tech and making Miami really a spotlight on the tech world stage, if you will. This panel discussion will be moderated by Javier Vazquez from Burger Singerman. We'll also have contributions from Melissa Medina, Emerge Americas, as well as Alex Buznego, who's with Ford Autonomous Vehicles, and Tigre Wenrich with Lab Miami Ventures. I also want to give a really special thank you to today's sponsors. Our presenting sponsor, Ocean Bank, thank you, Manny, and the rest of your team. And our event sponsor, Burger Singerman, thanks to Javier Vazquez and his team as well. So thank you so much for all your support with today's program. Let's hear remarks now from Catherine Amador from Burger Singerman, followed by Manny de Canal at Ocean Bank. Catherine, the floor is yours.
Everyone, I want to thank you all for being here with us today. On behalf of Burger Singerman, I want to express how honored we are to have served as a sponsor of the Real Estate Summit since 2013, and how important we believe the work of the Chamber is to our community now more than ever. As evidenced by the numerous media stories and the proclamations by our community leaders, it is very clear that Miami is giving Silicon Valley a run for its money. Our firm's real estate and corporate teams have been bustling, working with both new and local entrepreneurs who are capitalizing on everything that our wonderful city and our amazing community has to offer. And we're excited to welcome those of you that are new, as well as those of you that have been on the summit for a long time. We hope that you enjoy the presentation and welcome. Thanks again.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Manny del Cañal. Good morning, everyone. I'm Manny del Cañal with Ocean Bank. Ocean Bank is very happy to serve as presenting sponsor for today's event, focusing on technology and real estate. With over $4.7 billion in assets, Ocean Bank remains one of the largest commercial banks headquartered in Florida. During 2020, and in spite of the effects of the pandemic, Ocean Bank did not slow down at all. We originated over $900 million in new loans, with most of these financing real estate projects right here in South Florida. And lending activity in 2021 has continued just as strong. Also, Ocean Bank was very successful in quickly and efficiently converting its key operations to a fully remote and digital platform. We now offer online account opening and fully paperless loan closings to help serve our clients more effectively. But in spite of this digital transformation, we have not lost that personal touch, which is the essence of Ocean Bank's commitment to relationship banking. All of our branches are open, and our bankers continue to work hard to serve the needs of our clients each and every day. In addition, we have participated in both rounds of the Federal Paycheck Protection Program. To date, our entire banking team has been working very hard to process over 3,300 loans for over $260 million, helping South Florida businesses retain their employees during this pandemic. In summary, as a homegrown, Miami-based community bank serving South Florida for close to 39 years, we remain fully committed to supporting our local economy and helping our clients achieve their dreams. I will drop my contact information in the chat stream, and if any of you would like to discuss your banking relationships, or perhaps you have a project that may need financing, please do not hesitate to contact us, and we will work very hard to earn your business. And now, I have the pleasure of introducing today's keynote speaker. Mayor Francis X. Suarez currently serves as mayor of the city of Miami. Prior to his election in November of 2017, Mayor Suarez served as commissioner for Miami's District 4 for 8 years, working hard to raise the standards of the city in which he was born and raised. His civic accomplishments on behalf of the city of Miami are extensive and impressive. He is vice chair of the Miami-Dade Transportation Planning Organization and immediate past president of the Miami-Dade County League of Cities, just to name a few. He is dedicated to elevating the quality of life of the residents he serves by focusing on housing, transportation, and connectivity issues within the city and beyond, nurturing the growth of a tech-based economy in the area and, by extension, job creation and international opportunities with Latin America. Mayor Suarez currently serves as second vice president of the United States Conference of Mayors, and he is slated to take over as president of the conference for a 2-year term commencing shortly. I originally had the privilege of meeting Mayor Suarez as he pursued his bachelor's degree in finance from Florida International University, where he graduated in the top 10% of his class. He then went on to receive his law degree from the University of Florida Levin College of Law, where he graduated cum laude. In addition to his public service, Mayor Suarez works in the corporate and business practice group at the law firm of Greenspoon Marder. He has more than 14 years of experience in real estate law and in corporate finance. Mayor Suarez is uniquely suited to give today's keynote presentation. As you all know, he has become somewhat of a national rock star in his promotion of the city of Miami as a very worthy alternative to Silicon Valley. Just in the last few months, Mayor Suarez has enjoyed extensive national exposure and has been featured in spotlight articles in numerous publications, including very recently Forbes and Bloomberg. Mayor Suarez is married to Gloria Fons Suarez, and they have a son, Andrew Javier, and a daughter, Gloriana Pilar. They consider themselves honored and blessed to be raising their family in the city of Miami. And now, without further ado, Mayor Francis X. Suarez.
Thank you, Manny. It's such an honor. Thank you, Manny. It's such an honor to receive that introduction. Back when you taught me at FIU, you used to have no white hairs. It's great to have known you as long as I have, and you have the same wonderful smile and wonderful charm about you that you had so many years ago. And it's wonderful to maintain that friendship for as long as we have. You know, there's a single defining reason behind my push to attract tech to Miami, and it's my residents. In a rapidly evolving modern economy, we need to be prepared for the potential shocks that we may be faced with. And I think attracting high-paying, high-quality jobs is the best way to diversify what we've already built. We also need to continue to attract major financial institutions like Starwood Capital and Blackstone to keep up with the world's most prolific cities. And this is arguably where we as a government will play a large role. We need to continue being a premier destination for startup creation and business development. We've been exploring incentive programs, and we're very upfront with asking businesses what they need from our end to make Miami attractive to them. But this has to become the status quo, not a one-off attempt. and real estate plays an unmistakable role in the future of Miami. We've always been a destination for ultra high quality residential real estate, but our commercial real estate market has exploded in recent times, especially during this Miami movement. Blackstone just acquired $230 million of office space in downtown. SoftBank, who already leases out 14,000 square feet of space, is looking for 100,000 more. Microsoft is also looking for space for their Latin American headquarters. By the way, I know where both of those are going, but I can't tell you yet. The city of Miami is the only major city in the country that still has a 10x ability to grow built into our residential code. We're not done growing, and we have a lot more room to go. Miami saw double-digit growth, 18% over the last 2 years of my term, and we managed in 2020, still growing 6% with a minimal deficit. Affordable housing is also going to be a major part of the future of Miami ecosystem, and we won't be able to achieve that without leveraging private investment and private sector dollars. Expanding affordable housing is necessary for enhancing, protecting, and preserving the neighborhoods that make Miami the most diverse and dynamic city in North America. We need to develop the infrastructure necessary to give Miamians and those who wish to become Miamians the opportunity to live and work without having to be worried how they'll make rent or how they'll feed their families. Over 2,300 new affordable housing units, finalized contracts for $10.1 million in Miami Forever bond funding for 7 new housing developments that have started construction or will start construction in 2021. Leveraging those dollars to the tune of 20 to 1 will give us $200 million of projects for $10 million of government investment. Once completed, these new sites will add 722 much needed rental units for low income and workforce households in the city.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you to the Honorable Mayor Suarez for joining us today and give us an update into the amazing work the city is implementing in attracting new companies and jobs in our community. My name is Nelly from Douglas Elliman Commercial, and it's my pleasure to be the co-chair for the Real Estate Summit this year with Lydia Stefanova. I'm here to introduce our panel moderator, Javi Vazquez. He's a partner at Burger Singerman and has been a long-standing champion and leader for the Real Estate Committee. We are bringing Javi up in a few, and thank you, everyone.
Good morning. Stephanie, can you confirm that you can hear me?
I can hear you, Javi.
Okay. So good morning to everyone. My name is Javi Vazquez. I am a land use and zoning attorney with the law firm of Burger Singerman. I've been working with the committee for many years. I've been a land use attorney for over 30 years, and the mayor spoke about Manny's gray hairs. Well, top of my head speaks for how many years I've been doing this. But I am honored to be able to moderate a very special panel today, and I'm going to proceed with bringing them up. My first panelist in this morning's category, which is going to focus on the city of the future, is Alex Buznego. He leads the Miami office for Ford Autonomous Vehicles, LLC. Alex and his teammates are responsible for the local strategy, finances, operations, market growth, and business development of Ford's self-driving services, soon to launch in Miami. Prior to working at Ford, Alex spent 6 years with Major League Baseball's Miami Marlins franchise, serving as their Director of Innovation and Head of Marketing Strategy. I will ask everyone to please join me in welcoming Alex. Thank you, Alex, for joining us, and welcome aboard. My second panelist is Melissa Medina. She is a native to Miami. Melissa is a founding executive team member and president of eMerge Americas, a venture-backed platform focused on transforming Miami into the tech hub of the Americas. The eMerge signature event launched in 2014 and is a global tech conference held annually at the Miami Beach Convention Center. And with Melissa's leadership, the eMerge Americas Conference now attracts over 16,000 attendees. Melissa is also the president of the Medina Family Foundation. And as president of that foundation, Melissa has defined the foundation's mission as funding and playing an active role in local initiatives that focus on mentoring children and empowering families and enhancing education and quality of life. Welcome, Melissa. Last but not least, we have Mr. Tigre Wenrich, based at the Lab, Miami and Wynwood, South Florida's original co-working space. Tigre runs Lab Ventures, an early stage investor in prop tech startups. Their startup studio has created and scaled businesses such as Expetitle, Baycom, and Lumi Living. Tigre and his partners have also recently launched Lab Prop Tech Fund, a venture capital fund targeting technology companies that serve the real estate and construction industries. Tigre is an active angel investor and a mentor to local emerging technical companies. Welcome, Tigre. At this time, I'll ask the three of you to unmute yourselves, and we are going to proceed with our questions. Before I start with the first question, I'd like to ask each of our panelists to tell us a little bit more about your respective companies and the experiences as relates to real estate. And Melissa, ladies first, we'll start with you.
Thanks so much, Javi. Thank you for this opportunity. Thanks to the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, Ocean Bank, everyone that's involved. It's a pleasure to be here, surrounded by such esteemed men, and excited to have this conversation. So as you mentioned, Emerge Americas is a technology platform, and the mission behind Emerge Americas is truly connecting Latin America to the rest of the world and helping establish South Florida as a tech hub. You mentioned our signature event, which attracts over 16,000 tech ecosystem stakeholders. So from entrepreneurs and investors and government officials, all come together to talk about technologies transforming industries. But I think what's important is that our mission has always been to put Miami and tech together in the same sentence. And I think there's several organizations that have been involved over the last decade, including those of us on this call today that have had similar missions. And what we're seeing today is just almost like a convergence of a perfect storm, an acceleration in the tech and entrepreneurship verticals here in South Florida. And that's just music to my ears. And the experience as it relates to real estate, it's a really long story, but I'll make it short. There's an interesting intersection between Emerge and real estate. And that is that my family's company, which was called Terramark, was a real estate company and a development company. And that's what it was all our lives. I grew up learning about due diligence and learning about the real estate market in South Florida and commercial real estate, residential real estate. And it was in the late 90s, actually, when I was in college, that my father's company basically won a bid to build what's called a network access point, the NAP of the Americas. And this is a very high-tech IT infrastructure building that basically all internet traffic from Latin America and the Southeast US flows through. It still exists today. It's in downtown Miami. And that was the transformation in my life, in my father's life, and in our family company's life, from real estate to technology, because he not only built it, then he wanted to build and operate it. That's how we got into the technology business, into the cloud infrastructure business. And then ultimately, when we had this conversation about how can we really help spark a tech ecosystem in Miami, is where Emerge Americas was born. So there's a clear history between real estate and technology in my personal trajectory in life.
Thank you. Alex, you are muted. You want to go next?
Sure thing. And thank you all again, everyone at the Chamber, Javi, Mark, for having. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Ford's presence in Miami with our self-driving vehicle project. So Miami holds a really special place in Ford Motor Company's heart. It was chosen as the first city globally where it would test and commercialize self-driving services. We're doing so in partnership with our partners at Argo AI. And we're really excited to be in Miami. We'll be launching these services in 2022. And we've already been here for 3 years doing the testing and a lot of the customer research to build out this business. So I want to say a couple of things to sort of help paint the picture about what we're working on and how this might impact the city of the future. So first thing to realize is self-driving technology is imminent, and it's pretty crazy to think about. I want to clarify the difference between what exists on the market today and what is just a couple years down the road for us. So there is no vehicle on the marketplace that you can purchase today that is self-driving or autonomous in the way that we mean it. So there are definitely some really incredible technologies on vehicles today to help a human driver with the act of driving. Maybe it helps you stay in your lane. Maybe it helps you with braking, car in front of you. Maybe it'll help you park. Maybe it'll help you drive on a highway. But what they all have in common, among all the technologies that exist today on vehicles, is that they require a human driver to be paying attention and engaged in the act of driving and take over in the event that something isn't recognized by the system. The industry refers to that as level 2 autonomy. Now, what we're working on is level 4 autonomy. So I want to talk about the difference there. So what we're just from is a technology that allows a vehicle to drive from point A to point B completely on its own and handle all elements of the trip, so long as that trip is within a pre-evaluated geofenced area. The industry refers to that as level 4 autonomy, and that's what we're building in Miami today. What's also important to know is that these won't at first necessarily be vehicles that you can purchase. These are going to be offered in the format of the service. So this is going to be a fleet of vehicles that we own, we maintain, and that we avail to transportation as a service company. So with the advent and popularity of on-demand ride sharing, I want you to envision a service that kind of feels like that, but where a self-driving vehicle is what comes when you summon it with your device. So today we're working with a variety of commercial partners. These are big companies, household names whose names you companies that today move people or move goods. And we're participating in some deep dive discussions to envision that future and how their businesses can be transformed with the introduction of a self-driving fleet and what new customer value can be added that way. And if you ask me, I'm born and raised in Miami. The fact that this is all being tested and evaluated here in Miami is incredible. And our community is going to get to be on the leading edge of that era. But part of that is a responsibility to also do the work, to do the deep thinking as a community around how we implement these safely and responsibly in a community. Just because the technology can do something doesn't mean that it's going to be socially acceptable or a good thing. So we're committed to having those conversations. Last thing I'll say, we recognize that self-driving technology can be intimidating when you first hear about it. There's going to be a lot of education that we need to do to help our future customers feel this is safe. Ford has been around for 118 years and is guided by the vision of being the world's most trusted company. And with that in mind, us along with Argo, we're only going to launch this when it's safe. We are optimistic about the changes and opportunity that this can provide, but at all times, Ford and our partners at Argo AI are guided to do the right thing. And that's going to apply now as we test this and eventually when we launch this.
Thank you, Alex. And certainly automated technology in the world of cars is one of the most exciting parts of this whole conversation as we apply it to the world of real estate. Tigre, tell us a little bit about you and your company, and then we'll get going with the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me as part of this group. Good to see friends here and people who've been working for many years to try and make Miami Tech a reality. I've been involved in tech startups for over a decade, and I've been a resident of Miami for 18 years. So I run Lab Ventures, which is what we call a venture studio based in the co-working space in the picture here, the Lab, which, as you mentioned, was really the first such space in Miami. It was opened in 2012, before WeWork was here, before co-working was even a word that people understood. And it's been really one of the focal points for entrepreneurship in Miami over the years. So a few years ago, we got together and put together this project to build startups from scratch. And we're specifically focused on technology companies for real estate and construction. So for example, we created a fully virtual title agency that manages residential real estate closings. We have a real estate brokerage where a buyer or seller can be their own realtor and save on commissions. We have a co-living business for university students to live off campus in single family homes, etc. We also created a tech conference specifically for prop tech or property technology, real estate and construction tech, which we called the Future of Real Estate. And we held it here in Miami in 2018, 2019, unfortunately not last year, thanks to the pandemic, but we'll be relaunching this fall in Las Vegas. It's a much bigger event. We're expecting several thousand people. It's really now become the preeminent prop tech event in the country. It's called Blueprint. If anyone's interested, you can check it out online. It's gonna be first week in October. So hopefully, just as people are starting to go back to live events, we're excited about that. And then, as you kindly mentioned, we just launched our seed stage venture capital fund that also invests specifically in prop tech companies. Not necessarily our companies, but just anybody with a compelling, innovative startup that is addressing a problem in real estate and construction. And interestingly, the focus is obviously to make a lot of money in venture capital, but also our investors come from the real estate world, and they're also very interested in getting closer to what's going on in technology and how it might be disrupting their business and how they can be a first mover and take advantage of tech. So that's a big part of our value proposition as well.
All right, thank you, Tigre. So with that, I'd like to jump into our first question. Our first question, and I am going to ask Melissa to start on this one, is just how big is the real estate tech industry, and how is the technology already affecting the real estate sector today? So Melissa, if you'll take a crack at that, and then Alex and Tigre will be able to jump in afterwards.
Yeah, of course. So real estate, as we all know, I mean, taking out the tech component, is definitely the industry of South Florida. It always has been. I mean, I was born and raised actually on Miami Beach, and the difference between Miami Beach when I grew up and Miami Beach today, the skyline and Lincoln Road is just one example. And then, drive down Brickell downtown, we all know that real estate is the industry of South Florida. Now, add to that the extreme growth, acceleration in the tech industry, in the tech community, especially, it's really been happening over the last 5 to 7 years, but obviously we all know because of COVID, there's been this major acceleration in our community, which is very exciting. So naturally, the real estate tech industry is exponentially growing. And I personally believe we've only scratched the surface. And tech is affecting every aspect of real estate, how people look for homes, how agents market homes, sell homes, streamlining of services. It technically already affects every component in one way or another. And not to mention that data is just much more easily accessible. There's lead generation systems. And I think ultimately, I think people expect tech to streamline their experience and make transactions easier, faster, et cetera. So there's no question in my mind that, this is a very large sector right now in our community that's growing exponentially.
It's really huge. The last 3 years, it's averaged about $25 billion a year in venture capital investment. If you go back 5 years, it was 1 to 2 billion, which still sounds like a big number, but in the context of $150 billion a year of money going into venture capital, it was a really small niche, but it has exploded over the last 3 years.
For sure.
And it's, I think that, as you said, a lot of the initial innovation was around the residential market. So things like Zillow, which is more than 10 years ago. But now the entire residential process has been digitized, and in COVID, we've seen how that's just accelerated. So there's a company called Notarize that is sort of the last step of a home buying process, where you typically you start your search on Zillow, you do the virtual tour, everything's digitized, and then you want to actually make an offer and buy the house, and you have to go and sit down in a lawyer's office or with the notary. Best case, maybe there's a mobile notary that comes to you, but there's now a purely virtual digital notary service. They grew 8x last year.
Wow.
That's obviously didn't start because of COVID, but COVID has given a huge push to that and many other technologies. Anything that sort of enables remote transactions is just absolutely blowing up in this environment.
And we all know the story of DocuSign and some of the companies that have made virtual signatures a possibility for contracts and things like that. I know that one has been around a little longer, but it's just one more example of things that are just becoming very commonplace in the real estate industry today. So the next question I'm going to direct to Alex. It's a natural for you. And that question is, what are some of the most impactful new technologies that we are seeing now and looking into the future?
Yeah, well, obviously, we'll start with level 4 self-driving fleets. How about that?
That's a great idea.
Transportation technology companies have already begun to impact real estate. If you look at the impact of the ride-hail companies and the restaurant delivery companies on the demands for the curb, and what it's like to have these transportation as a service companies who don't need a space to park, right? They need just a moment to pick up and drop off. How has that changed what the behaviors that are happening, at curbside in county streets, but also in the driveway and porte cocheres of hotels and condos and office towers? We see those sorts of trends as being things that AV fleets can plug into and accelerate. Through all the customer research we've done, we've realized that habits are changing, and the ride-hail services can offer. And not a new trend, but something that COVID definitely accelerated was delivery of almost anything now at this point. It started with restaurant delivery and maybe grocery delivery. And now it's almost every big box retailer is offering next day delivery, same day delivery, 2-hour delivery. For companies to keep up with that pace of expectation from customers, we think we really have a role in accelerating those trends in service to customer habits and customer desires. So aside from that, AVs have a bigger role in the community as well. And we have definitely know what the questions are. In coming up with the answers, we want that to be a collaborative effort, right? So we're here in Miami-Dade a couple years before we even launched these services. We've been here for 3 years to this point to ask those questions. How can AVs help those with differing abilities? How can AVs help the elderly? How can AVs help connect sort of outlying locations that are underserved by the major transit corridors? Will longer distances be less effort to drive now if you're not in control of the vehicle? Definitely big implications on safety for a vehicle that is going to follow and not get distracted by texting. There's a quality of life implication. So, I think our role in the community is to pose these questions and be an active listener, and that's the role we've tried to take so far. And that's the role we want to continue to take. So part of today is sort of to ask the questions and have the action item be for us, to get together in future settings. We've begun to do that with the county. We've begun to do that with the real estate community. In the next decade or two, the reality is autonomy is going to build some momentum, as well as at the same moment that electric vehicles are coming online and building momentum, at the same time that connected vehicle technology is coming online. And as those three technologies come together, I think the possibilities are pretty impactful for the city of tomorrow.
As a zoning attorney, Alex, I have seen how the industry has been affected and how it has had to adapt and change when it comes to design of buildings, et cetera, with things such as shared riding with Lyft and Uber, things just such as delivery of packages with Amazon. Buildings have had to identify areas for these things, whereas before those things were not in the picture. How this is a question that was posted by Ignacio Portuondo, who's one of our participants today, which relates to this subject. And the question is, how do we anticipate building codes to evolve as technology evolves? For example, he writes, an autonomous vehicle and ride sharing becomes more common. Will current parking requirements adjust in a similar way? What are your thoughts about that? Maybe Tigre, you want to take a shot at that?
That's the most obvious one. I mean, it's already starting to happen experimentally in some places, where with the anticipation of many fewer people owning their own vehicles and using, whether it's an autonomous vehicle on demand or just a regular Uber or Lyft, that the people won't own cars anymore. We're seeing that starting to happen, and there's places where it's already been incorporated into the zoning. I've also seen people designing in sort of flexible spaces where they're putting in the parking today, but they're already envisioning that probably 10 years from now, they're going to want to repurpose those parking spaces and do something else with that part of the building, because they just know they're not going to need that many spaces going forward.
And Melissa, as a continuation of the same question, another one of our participants writes, what kind of technologies do you see in the building materials arena having the greatest impact moving forward? For example, smart windows. On your end, have you started to see things like that?
Yeah, and I think to Tigre's point earlier, I think all of those smart technologies actually started a while back, believe it or not. I think now, they're becoming just much more technologically forward. But all of the smart AV systems, the smart even energy efficiency, AC systems in buildings, all of that has already been in the works now for a while. So I think we're just going to see a continued growth within that sector. And I think another important kind of new technology, kind of going back to the original question, that we're hearing a lot of buzz about right now, Alex Buznego, no fun there, is crypto. And I think that's going to be a really important, play a big factor in the future of real estate. I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I briefly read today on Marcelo Claude's Twitter that WeWork is now going to be accepting crypto. I'm not sure in what capacity, because I only saw the headline, so I don't want to start any major rumors here. But I think we're going to see a lot of this, and blockchain and NFTs and all of this is going to play a big role in the real estate sector. Imagine being able, to use these cryptocurrencies for real estate transactions, which is starting to happen, but I think we're going to see this manifest in a way that I don't think anyone realizes right now.
I agree, and I think that's a subject that our chamber can probably host something like this.
Yeah,
just
definitely.
Focus on that. That's a topic of its own. So Melissa, I'm going to stick with you for the next question. And for those of you that are on, we apologize for the technical difficulties that we may have experienced with Mayor Suarez. We kind of lost him right in the middle of his presentation. We apologize to Mayor Suarez as well, but we're doing our best with this technology, and so far it seems to be a great thing. We are very excited about this remote platform. So Melissa, when the mayor spoke, he focused on attracting new tech companies to move to Miami. What impact will the recent momentum in the Miami tech community have on the city of the future, and how will this momentum and movement and amount of capital coming into Miami impact the city of the future?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I'm just so excited as to how Mayor Suarez has embraced all of this new influx of tech and entrepreneurship into the city. But I also want to stress that he really has been a supporter. Specifically, I could speak from Emerge, the Emerge perspective from my company from the beginning, from when it was just an idea, before he was mayor, before he was commissioner. And so it's amazing to see him now really kind of being the ambassador and holding up the flag, and so many people embracing this movement. I just want to, say how amazing it is to have him as our mayor and leader in the city. To answer your question, I think big picture, long term, a thriving tech hub creates incredible positive snowball effects. When you think about it, we're going to have more high-paying jobs, innovative solutions, more people in a community high intellectual capital, more collaboration, diversity. Lastly, I think it's important to note that Miami has always been known as sort of the gateway to LATAM, which is, of course, super important. And I think it's still something that very much diversifies us. But I think right now, Miami is an international hub. And this new influx of technology, entrepreneurs, founders, capital will all have a dramatic impact in the real estate market, in the real estate tech market, because South Florida is now the place to work, the place to live. And I think embracing this from all sectors, of course, including the real estate sector, is going to be beneficial for all of us. And I think it's just going to create an incredible, thriving ecosystem as a whole in our community.
Thank you. Alex, Tigre, you guys want to add?
Yeah, I can jump in. No, I think it's an unbelievable moment, and there definitely is an incredible amount of momentum forming, and it's amazing. Miami's optimism, I think, is oftentimes its best attribute, and it makes it such a welcoming place. What comes to mind a lot for me in the last few months, as all this momentum is building, is the story of Miami. About 100 years ago was the story of the mother of Miami, Julia Tuttle, partnering with Henry Flagler, someone who came from somewhere else. Partnership and with the railroad that formed after created the foundation of Miami. I think about that, the parallels to what's going on today with when you take the optimism and the Miamians, the locals, all of us who know this city and are so passionate about building this city, with those who are coming here from other places who bring us a different set of skills and and the ability and spirit, the ability to tackle big ideas, frankly, capital, right? So all those things are coming together, and I think it's a matter of how we channel that energy. In what direction do we channel it? Miami has some incredible opportunities in the short term. Those are the stuff we're working on today. In the intermediate term, the next decade or two, there's also some pretty amazing opportunities. And then even at the 100-year time horizon, opportunities and challenges. And I think focusing not only on what's in front of us, but also on that long term. How do we adapt, and how do we solve the long-term problems as well? I think with that in mind, if we channel it that way, I'm excited to see what the Miamians of 2121 look back at this moment and what stories they'll tell.
Thank you, Alex. Tigre, anything to add on that one?
I think it's just welcome light on a process that's been building for many, many years. I like to call this sort of a 10-year overnight success, right? All of a sudden we're on the map. I think it's great what the mayor's been doing and the attention he's been bringing to the city. But at the end of the day, it's slowly, brick by brick, building. It's building the educational infrastructure. It's having startups that become big tech companies that have an exit, get some money, and then reinvest in the next thing. And this is all starting to become a virtual cycle. But that's the most important thing.
Thank you. So the next subject we're going to talk about is sustainability. One of our participants says or asks, can you please talk about how the collaboration of real estate and technology will allow us to accelerate sustainable development, and how can a partnership with a local government best help? The way I had written the question was, obviously we see the buzz that's happening in the tech world as it relates to sustainability. How do we see that working? And I'll start with Tigre on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's become really a hot topic within the prop tech world. So as you probably know, there's been several billion-dollar commitments to sustainability from the tech world generally, but real estate has been behind. And by some calculations, real estate as an industry is responsible for 40% of global energy usage and 30 to 40% of all greenhouse gas emissions. And it's not immediately intuitive, but if you think about, first of all, everything that goes into building real estate, the construction process, the materials, the vehicles, and then all of the energy that goes into running a building. You can start to imagine how that's true. And as a sector, we've done very little about that. It's now becoming, as I said, a really hot topic. Just this year in the first quarter, 3 new venture capital funds specifically focused on sustainability in prop tech, for technology to address sustainability in real estate, were announced. Almost $1 billion of commitments. There's something called the Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance, which is 500 global real estate investors representing almost $50 trillion of investment assets, have committed to net zero greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2050. So we're starting to see this come into focus. I don't think we have the answers on exactly how tech is going to solve these problems. I mean, I'm familiar with some technologies at a very basic level, do a lot for energy usage. There's a Miami company called NTIC, which basically monitors in commercial and industrial spaces. I think they actually use it at the Marlins, Alex, to monitor building usage and temperature, and basically turn off air conditioning when no one's using it automatically to save energy. There's a bunch of other companies using sensors around motors and pumps and other things that consume electricity in a building to improve their efficiency, predict when they're going to need maintenance, because when the compressor goes bad, it's also uses a lot more energy. And not only can we save electricity by using these technologies, like one company I know in that space claims they could reduce operating expenses for a building owner 5 to 10%. So there's a lot of really basic stuff that we're still not doing, but I think there's also much bigger initiatives that people haven't even imagined yet. But in terms of the kinds of materials that we use to build buildings, the process by which we build, that will significantly impact carbon emissions and the sustainability of real estate.
Thank you. Melissa, you want to chime in on sustainability?
Sure. I mean, I think, Tigre said it wonderfully. I'll just add that, kind of as he said, technology it's an extremely powerful tool. And I think that it can be used extremely effectively to address sustainability. And I think that geographically, here in South Florida, we can take advantage of kind of being the leaders in the space because of where we are. And we already have, Alex could talk a lot more about this, but electric vehicles and how that affects sustainability. Solar power, I think we're seeing that a lot more now, solar power panels, and just how technology is being used to make homes and developments much more sustainable already. But to Tigre's point, I think there's a lot more that we can do. But I think that there is right now a lot of conversations being had between the public and the private sector, and that we are positioned really well to be able to kind of come out as the leaders in this space. And it's something we really need to think about for our next generation. It's something I think about with my children all the time, and I think it's something that we all sort of need to support.
Alex, she queued you up.
It's an important moment in the transportation industry, with the electric vehicles being such a major priority for so many companies. Ford itself has invested more than $22 billion in electric vehicles globally through 2025. The Mustang Mach-E is our newest product that is a fully electric vehicle, and is going to be the first in the line of electrifying our iconic products, starting with the Mustang, like I mentioned, but also the Transit for small business usage, for example, and soon the F-150. There's a really important trend that is happening right in front of our eyes. When you marry that trend with the trend of level 4 autonomy becoming a reality and the decade ahead, I think there's opportunity for some really incredible changes for our community and for other communities.
Thank you. So we've got a couple more questions as we start to wrap up. I would like to encourage our participants to use the question and answer slot that's on the right-hand side, because there will be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end of the program. And now is your time to start putting in those questions which I have access to, and I'll be happy to incorporate with our panelists. Our next question, I am going to once again go back and start with Melissa. So a few years ago, we saw things like elevators that were being used for parking. The Porsche building comes to mind as one of the first buildings that used the concept for residents to be able to bring their automobiles up adjacent to their floors. What is that one most impactful thing in prop tech today, and how do you think it will impact the real estate industry? What sector of real estate is using it the most, and where do you expect to see the growth? I know it's a long question, but what's that one thing that you see becoming the most impactful right now and moving in the future?
I think what I would say to that, in my opinion, the most impactful component or part of technology, it's already, in my opinion, been the most impactful part, and I think it'll continue to be. And that for me is the data analytics component. I think it's transformed the industry completely. It provides information that was never accessible before. It allows you to collect data, review it, make decisions based on it. And I think that's going to continue to be the trend. And it's a very, very powerful tool if used wisely.
Anyone else?
I think the sector that we're most excited about in terms of new development is around construction tech. So a lot of us, as I said at the beginning, a lot of the innovation has been in residential real estate. There's a lot going on now around big data and commercial real estate, like Melissa said. There's been relatively less investment in construction, and construction is an even more manual, paper and pencil kind of business than the rest of real estate. It's actually had negative labor productivity growth over the last 10 years. There's a huge need to deploy technology, and we're seeing really interesting stuff. Some of it is immediate. We invested in a Miami-based company called Smart Barrel that tracks on-site construction labor using facial recognition to check people in and out of a job site, generate automated payroll data. Really interesting kind of real-world application, taking cost out and adding efficiency today. There's also some stuff in construction that's more down the road. I mean, I think analogous to the self-driving cars, there's other technologies that sound like they're way, way far into the future, but they're actually coming sooner than we think. So whether it's 3D printing, and I don't know if anyone's seen these, but they exist. There are large 3D printers that can print a concrete structure. They're not really commercially viable yet, but they are on a path to become a commercially viable way to build a house. Or modular prefab. We also invested in a company out in the West Coast that basically builds backyard cottages as almost like a kit from IKEA. It goes flat pack, and you can stand it up on a slab in the back of your home on your lot in the back in literally like 2 days. Lower cost, higher quality, much faster to put up. So those, again, that is it's a very, very small company, and they've got a very long way to go. But those kinds of technologies, they're a little bit further out, but they're going to have even bigger impact, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years, call it.
You know, as a person that deals with site plans and renderings and elevations and all types of construction plans, it blows my mind to think that we could see the day where we're working with a 3D set of plans. I look forward to that. One of our participants just asked about that, so I'm glad you touched on that.
Javier, really quick, I just want to add incredible points, Tigre. And it's really interesting. I was reading recently about how 3D communities, there's some that are already fully being built within a day or two in Latin America. And they're using them in like underserved and underprivileged areas. And I can only imagine, to Tigre's point, once that becomes much more mainstream, like how transformational that's going to be for the real estate industry.
Crazy.
It's already happening. So it's just going to, blow up at some point in a good way.
Absolutely. Alex, did you want to add any on that before we go to the last question?
Yeah, what I wanted to add is in terms of what technologies in real estate, that's the reason that we've been engaging with the real estate community. So Javi will know, we've been making a really proactive effort really over the last 3 years to ask those questions of the Miami real estate community. Because as much as we think we have perspective to share about what the technology can do and at what time, it will do it over the next decade, we really want input from the real estate community. You're the experts in your sector, and we know what's coming down the pike in terms of autonomy, electrification, and connected vehicle technology. So really the answer to this question is going to come from ongoing collaboration as these technologies roll out.
And quick shout out to Mark. I just saw that it's true that Coastal built the Porsche Tower. And so shout out to these, big construction companies that are embracing all of this new technology and kind of being the leaders in the space. So good point, Mark.
Good save, Melissa. Thank you for that. All right, as we start winding this down, this has been awesome so far. We have a closing question, and then we are going to open it up for comments and questions to our participants. And the closing question, which I am going to start with Alex, is asking you for advice. What should companies be doing today to prepare for the city of the future?
Awesome. It's a great question, and in the realm of level 4 self-driving services, what we know about the capabilities of the technology, and we have guidelines in terms of how they're going to roll out, but we are quite reserved in terms of making too big of promises, right? The most important thing here is safety, and this is going to roll out when it's safe, and we want it to roll out in the way that makes sense for the community. We don't want to necessarily go to a community or like Austin, Texas, or like Washington, D.C. and say, this is exactly how it's going to be. So for any companies out there that want to learn more and want to get involved, our approach is, number one, let's talk about it. That's the first way we're going to put our heads together and, think through these big issues about how a technology that it doesn't have a lot of precedent is going to unroll, in a big city like Miami. I'll throw out our email, avmiami@ford.com. Please reach out and let's have these conversations. We're open to have those and really eager to have those. And second, what we've been doing is piloting. We try stuff and see how it works and see how customers feel about it. How do businesses feel about it? Is it adding the value that we think it might? And from pilots, we've learned no, and that's okay. And that's how you iterate and you find the right application. So we would welcome opportunity to discuss pilot programs. Maybe we test how to create a pickup drop-off environment that is really high throughput and that challenges sort of the convention of how current driveway areas are set up, for example. There's a lot of room for imagination here. And I think with Ford and Argo AI, you'll both really interested in having those discussions and sort of grounding it in a really realistic approach.
Thank you. We'll go Tigre, and Melissa, we'll leave you for last on this.
Yeah, I think the idea of experimentation, this is the way to get engaged with technology and with startups is to do lots of little experiments quickly. Be prepared that some of them won't work. But this is not something to have committee spend 6 months or a year to pick the right project. Small investments, harvest the gains and the ones that work, reinvest and do more things. It's also, innovation is not something that should be delegated deep down low in an organization. It really has to start with the top. Just maybe a quick example, very relevant to Miami, Lennar, largest home builder in the world based here, right? The CEO has made this a huge priority, pulled the senior executive out of the organization and gave him a brand new division reporting directly to the top. They've invested over $300 million in 20 different startups. which, by the way, they've already got like 5x return on that investment. They've been in some of the biggest prop tech deals of the last year. But more importantly, they're investing in the technologies that are going to impact the way they build and sell and service homes, which is their core business. So I think even if you don't have $300 million hanging around to invest in startups, it's worth making innovation a priority. The best time to start is yesterday. The second best time to start is today. But there's lots of ways to do it on a smaller scale. That's the whole thesis behind the fund that we just launched is, with a relatively small investment, we can give people exposure to both, the financial upside of investing in startups, but also access to what are the most interesting technologies out there in real estate. So again, if anyone's interested, and please follow up with me, be happy to have a longer conversation about this.
Thank you, Melissa.
No, I agree with Alex and Tigre. I think, I would just say, no matter the size of your company, whether you are a startup in the real estate industry, or a mammoth company like Lennar, like Tigre was saying, I think it's the underlying message here is just always innovate, always look ahead. Don't be afraid to be forward thinking. Keep an open mind when new technologies come out. It's understandable that you may want to push back, but being open-minded is key. There's always going to be maybe some resistance to change, but the truth is that change is coming either way. So it's always good, I think, like Tigre said, to be ahead of it. So you didn't start yesterday, start today, get a team together. And I'll end by a quote by the late Steve Jobs, which went something like, the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. So, a little crazy idea can go a long way in your company.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Tigre, for participating. This is now going to transition to the Q&A section. We don't have many questions in the Q&A slot here. I am going to ask Christina at the chamber to see if there are any live questions. In the meantime, while we do that, I will raise a note that was posted by Marco Bernal-Cobb, who shared with us a website having to do with a Berlin-based startup which focuses on improving real estate's energy efficiency and tracking the consumption trends in accordance with the Paris Climate Accord and other global regulations. So just on a worldwide environmental stage, we see things coming into play. And Tigre, I wanted to ask you about that. Have you heard about this, and what are your thoughts on that? You're muted, Tigre. You're muted right now.
I don't know that one specifically, but I mean, yes, there are a lot of people attacking that issue. It's very topical right now. I think Europe is probably ahead of us on that, so I'm not surprised to hear there's one in Berlin.
Okay, very cool. And then we have Brian Regan, who is asking the question whether we have any advice on working with the city or the county officials on codes and permits for new technology and construction materials. Before I go to one of you guys, I can tell you that as a zoning attorney, I myself am already seeing the benefits of being able to go online and see all of the comments from different staff members without having to bother them. There's a system where applications are posted and uploaded, and a few days later, you're starting to get departmental memos posted. And then because of the COVID situation, of course, we've also seen cities and counties having to go to the virtual platform for the hosting of public hearings, which have traditionally been either in municipal locations and venues, or in schools or places where you have a stage or some type of large room. And this is something that's looking like it's going to become a permanent situation in many of these, for many of these cities, as they're being very effective. They're allowing folks who want to express their support or opposition to a matter to be able to do so virtually, and people do not have to be leaving the comfort of their home for a 7 or an 8 p.m. public hearing on a zoning matter that they might want to express their support or opposition to. So these are things we're seeing the impact of technology at all levels of real estate.
I think that's has had a lot to do with COVID and the pandemic also, Javier, where I think governments and the public sector have usually been very slow to adopt to technology. And I think COVID has just literally quite forced them to have to embrace it in some way. They had to because of the circumstances. And now I think people are saying, oh, wow, it actually works. And, we can continue to do some of these things virtually, which is extremely exciting from a real estate tech government, I think, perspective.
And that reminds me of a subject that we haven't touched on today, which is very significant to the real estate market. COVID has allowed us to realize that we can work efficiently from home. And COVID has allowed companies to realize that they don't need as many square feet of office space as perhaps they have in the past. And it's having an impact on the real estate market with office leases, for example, coming to an end, and companies saying, hey, we don't need this much square footage. And it's having a ripple effect throughout the real estate industry as it relates to leasing space, market rates. Anybody want to jump in on that subject?
I mean, you're probably closer to it, dealing with those kinds of transactions every day, but I think it's very clearly in the short term. I mean, it's put the brakes on commercial leasing transactions. Lots of big headlines about companies giving up space, paying for early terminations, announcing permanent work from home. Like Facebook said, half of their engineering team will never come back to an office. To me, it's unclear that's that's definitely the short-term impact. There's some longer-term things, though. I think people crave interaction. I personally cannot imagine myself working from home every day from here till the end of my career. Like I have to go out and meet people. So as soon as the pandemic subsides and more of us are vaccinated and it becomes safer, I mean, we're already seeing it in our space, much more activity. I think people hunger for that kind of interaction, and a lot of industries need, particularly service businesses, like lawyers, consultants, accountants. People learn by working alongside someone, right? The apprenticeship model. So I'm a little bit skeptical that it's going to be that dramatically bad for commercial real estate. I believe there'll be a lot of changes, as you suggested, more short-term deals, much more flexible deals, probably more demand in suburban office markets. City centers are probably going to suffer for a while, especially like New York and San Francisco. But I think overall, the office is not going to disappear, not at all.
I think we're in a very unique location in terms of what's happening within the real estate industry, and that's that we are in South Florida, where in most of the U.S. things are not booming. Here, if you talk to anyone that's looking for, obviously from the residential side, looking for a home or condo, even a rental, it's almost impossible to find. And I think we're starting to see it on the commercial side as well, where, I mean, again, I'm not in the day-to-day, but from the entrepreneurs, founders, the bigger size tech companies also that are moving to South Florida, I mean, they're actively looking for larger spaces. I think to Tigre's point, and people want to be in the office, they want to have those collisions, they want to have those brainstorming sessions. Do I think it's going to be exactly the way it was before? No, I think there'll be a hybrid for some companies where it works well for some of their employees to be remote, maybe some of the time, maybe part of the time. But I think we are in an amazing position here in South Florida in terms of the growth of the real estate, both residential and commercial market, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if you look at mobility trends, that COVID-19 has also had an impact on how we wish to get around and how we wish to have things delivered. So what we've seen through our research is just an incredibly greater willingness to have everything delivered, with maybe a few exceptions. And in conversations with our partners, that's become, a really big messaging point. We've been taking the time to have these conversations and think about, the impact of COVID in terms of, part of our business is running a fleet. And if someone was in the vehicle prior to you, the importance of sanitization and cleaning in the vehicles is going to be incredibly important. So we're thinking about, how to make sure that each ride feels like, the first ride of the day and feels clean and fresh, for example. So there's definitely implications to, the way the world has changed in the last year. And, we're continuing to stay on top of, which ones of those trends are going to be enduring.
All right, I'd like to wrap up the panel component of this presentation this morning. I'd like to thank Melissa Medina, Tigre, Wenrich, and Alex Buznego. You guys have been awesome. On behalf of Burger Singerman, Florida's business law firm, I'm very proud to have seen my firm participate as a sponsor in this event. I also thank Ocean Bank for being the primary sponsor of the event. I will say goodbye to the panelists. I will ask the chamber staff to go ahead and transition us into the last portion of this program, where Carol Ellis, First Vice President of CBRE, will be giving closing remarks. And with that, I will say thank you to all and wish you a very happy afternoon.
Javi, great job again. Your leadership is consistent, and we're always pleased to have you. Stay active with the chamber. And thanks again for your support, for your contributions. Also, I want to thank the speakers today. What a great panel, starting with Mayor Suarez. We thank you so much. And Trig, Alex, and Melissa, this was a spot-on conversation, and my partner here at the chamber, as our chairman, Mark, has joined me on the screen. I am Carol Ellis Cutler, CBRE, and I'm a vice chair of the Real Estate Committee. It's been great.
Wonderful team members of the show. I want to thank everybody's hard work to put this together.
The technology of real estate is really spot on. I think the only thing we didn't cover as much is the healthcare technology. That is another side of the real estate, that the collaboration is coming together with the real estate. So stay tuned for more programs coming on maybe that subject. The chamber has another real estate upcoming event on June 8th. It's the Miami Real Estate Families program. So if you're not a member of the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, we encourage you to be active and come visit us. We have information on membership, and the chamber itself, we like to join you in any of our committees, both technology and real estate here joined together. So the technology and Miami is, I think, so unique that we are very fortunate to have leader of our city and our leader of our chambers.
The real estate agencies that are never been as high as they have been, and I know Javier mentioned the social distancing and
people working at home. At CBRE, we are seeing those trends of people wanting to get back to the office. And unfortunately, for tenants, it's hard to find good space, reasonable prices, but that just makes our community that much more exciting. So with people like Coastal Construction who can build it, firms like the real estate committees that are here active with the chamber, they can help lease it and manage it. So stay tuned for further programs. This time I'm going to
before we move into the rooms of breakout, so stay tuned. Continue with some networking as well. And lastly, our sponsors. Again,
I wanted to thank you, Ocean Bank and Manny, and all of your contributions. Javier and Burger Singerman with Berger has been such an active participant. So thank you for your sponsorship. And Coastal, Mark, thank you so much. I'll turn it over to you. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, everybody. This was an amazing event, kicking off our series. Coastal Construction is one that, as a general contractor, you don't really think of as being innovative or cutting edge. We as a firm actually are very dedicated to seeking out any innovations that can create efficiencies for our clients as far as construction goes. The construction business has not really changed in well over 100 years. And Coastal is actually going to be, we've been working on developing a fiber composite product, building materials product that is 12 times stronger than concrete and steel, and will surely be a disruptor in the industry as we continue to bring it to market. We're actually building a one-of-a-kind product right now, a multifamily structure built from it, and it's going to be an incredible, I guess, advantage to any developer looking to build with this material. And that'll be coming out soon, hopefully, rather than later. But I love the technology convergence into real estate. I think it's a huge advantage for us as a city to be where we are, situated in the location we're at, as being a gateway from as far as Latin America is concerned. So with that, again, I just want to thank everybody for participating, the speakers, the sponsorship, sponsors that is, and we look forward to seeing everybody in the future with our next upcoming events. Thank you so much, and hopefully we're in person. We'd love to be in person, back to somewhat of a normalcy. So thank you very much, everybody.